Welcome to this episode of the Prestige-ish Media Podcast. I'm your host, Craig Lake, and with me is the librarian, Hopper Sloppy Seconds, Dan McNair. Dan, how are you this evening?
I asked the librarian if they had any books on paranoia, and she said, they're right behind you.
Oh my gosh. Dan, thoughts on episode 6, Escape from Camazotz? You're a little down on 5. This get any better for you?
It did. And I know a lot of people enjoyed episode 4. I thought episode 4 was a little bit lopsided, being slow with a strong ending. For me, this is my favorite all-around episode this season. I gave it an 8.2.
Oh, that's cool. Glad to hear you're back on the comeback trail, if you will. I give this another 7.9 with the caveat that it is better than episode 5. I still think we've got spacing and plot issues and things like that, or not necessarily plot point issues, but like progression of plot issues. I do think 6 is better than 5 just on a one-for-one basis.
Yeah, I think we've been spinning our wheels in the mud on certain character developments. I did feel echoes of that, but it wasn't as cumbersome. And it felt like there were a couple plot areas where I'm like, could this thing just get going? Whether it's Jonathan and Nancy finally turned a corner or the actual escape that, Holly and Max have pretty much been in this one space for all season so far, or for the most part for Holly's case, but it felt like we were moving them in a different place. And so some of these things are finally coming into fruition, and it was a lot more exciting.
Not to talk you down from your rating, but what progress did you think we got with Nancy and Jonathan? What's your understanding of what we got?
Well, after this like long relationship, they basically finally broke up.
Okay, so
So
you did take it as a breakup because the Duffer brothers actually had to clarify it because people were unsure what that was.
there
And I
was a
was unsure.
swerve. There was a swerve there, but it landed as an unengagement or an unbirthday party or something like that.
Yeah, I got that maybe they weren't getting married, but I thought maybe we were getting like a continuing of the relationship, but it was a real breakup. So you did have the right read there.
Been
So
through enough, Craig.
I
I know a
wasn't
breakup when I experience one. And you
I
should be happy about that. That should raise your rating.
Yeah, like I said, this episode's definitely better. I'm kind of giving the overall show the grace of a rating till I see where this is going because generally I like the show. So I might have been a little higher than I should have been last episode. And we're within 3 points of each other. So I don't think we're too far off here.
We are, and I think to your point, a lot of times I don't make knee-jerk rating reactions in a linear show like this. It kind of builds on the past. And so I was a 7.4 last. A point 0.8 jump for me is a pretty big heave from one episode to another.
Yeah, so let's get into this. We get the beginnings of this rift that has occurred, this wormhole wall of sorts. Something's going on here. It wasn't what Dustin thought it was going to be, which we kind of knew when she shot the rift last episode, but we didn't see the after effects of it. To your point, I'm not sure if we got the gunshot on the front end or the back end, or I think we got the shot on the front end and the result on the back end. We do get your Mr. Clark follow up with him and Murray and the 5 a.m. I assume the Murray stuff still was pretty rough for you.
Yeah, I mean, he's just trying too hard. But for me, I don't know why Mr. Clark isn't a character that I'm crazy about, but there's something about his presence back in the show that feels good.
Yeah, no, I'd rather have him than Murray, certainly. I did think that it was interesting to see because last time he was with, maybe it was the psychologist or maybe it was a different lady of the night. And this time he gets Hopper's ex, the librarian. They both
Mr.
climbed
Clark,
that
he gets
tree.
around.
I've got the note as Hopper's sloppy seconds. So it's like, Snookums, what are you going to do? Like, bookworm or whatever. And I don't know. I initially on my first note pass, as I was going through the second episode, I went back for a note pass and I didn't know where all the schnookums was coming from, but I kind of get it a little more now.
My real takeaway was like he definitely has care for Dustin.
Of
And
course,
so,
yeah.
and what is it, like 4 in the morning or something like that, that they're banging on his door?
5 a.m.
Okay, so the fact that like I mean I don't know that Dustin's really been his student directly for a couple of years. That kind of shook him out of his afterglow.
Yeah, well, he has some sort of tie to the AV club and the squawk, and he knows they've been doing stuff over there. So I'm not sure the total like line in the sand with him, but agreed. And I think he's generally seems like a fun teacher. We get the Steve and Dustin conversation where Dustin says I was wrong, terribly, catastrophically wrong. We do get the definition that it was Renner's journal because I wasn't sure if Henry used to live in the basement or something. I wasn't sure if it was like his research or what, but we do get clarification that it was Renner's journal.
Renner or
Uh,
Dr. Brenner?
oh, yeah, him too. They're all the same to me. They all look alike. Jeremy Renner, Matthew Modine. Let's just go back to that. So he mentions that science did it. And I still have a question if L created this or who created this space, but he's saying science created it. Nancy shot at it like nobody on the other side, but we end up with more and more goo pulling in everywhere. I'm trying to think of how you would describe this, but I guess this is a black hole that was created, or maybe that's what the exotic matter is, or what? How would you classify this thing?
Yeah, in the science of it all, it seems there's a lot of liberties, and I'm not, a nuclear scientist, anybody. I appreciate science fiction, but there's a lot that I take on faith here.
Yeah,
So when it comes to wormholes, other than something that's going to make you grin thinking of a penis hole, which
I was waiting for the your mom joke.
like other than maybe Star Trek, like what's your experience with wormholes in fiction and like what do you know about them?
I've seen more in, you might still call this fiction, but there's a guy from Ancient Aliens that is on the Skinwalker Ranch, and he's kind of gone through this drawing of wormholes, much like Mr. Clark in real life. I forget what they call the bridge, but the something something bridge and the point between 2 points. So I have seen it drawn out in real life more than I have, I guess, in fiction when it comes to UAPs and aliens and like that, which once again, you may still consider fiction, but I guess I've seen it more me trying to understand how that works figuratively, dimensionally. Are they moving through space and time, or are they actually moving some of these UAPs or whatever this new technology is that's creeping into our world? What's your general knowledge of a wormhole?
Like to me, it's like a super fast highway to travel long distances, like through different galaxies, dimensions, vast distances. I thought maybe black holes had something to do with wormholes, or that's a
Now,
theory
now,
on the board.
now, don't they actually do in the show, like not just for the upside down, but doesn't he do, or I guess maybe I've just seen other people do it where it's like you take these 2 points in time and switch them together and
I think that
pencil
was the
through
flea
it.
and the acrobat, but that
But
was the
that
dimension to the upside down.
Well, but it turns out that the upside down, well, I don't know. I don't know
I
where we're
think the upside
going.
down is the wormhole, and there was a barrier keeping
Yeah,
the other dimension out, which is what Nancy shot, causing the ooze
like
overflow. You
it's
get a lot
it's
of ooze.
so, but
Oh,
we think it's the upside down that's collapsing on itself in theory.
yeah, and I
Well,
think that
collapsing everything.
I think there was like a gate there, and they're worried that Nancy has opened the gate.
Yeah. There's a lot of this that we're just working our way through. There is the talk from Dustin, if the bridge between the 2 points collapses, it will take us with it. Like we see the hole in the wall develop where Elle's kind of leading the way through the hole in the wall to whatever the rift is to get back to the upside right, I guess.
Side up.
I was hoping they would like shove 8 through the rift portal.
Just drop kicker.
Yeah, get rid of her. Thoughts kind of just everything encompassing that open. Any other comments there?
I like the explanation. I don't know that I have a scientific mind enough to really dissect it, but I'm just, enjoying the ride right now.
Yeah, I think as we go, we're getting a more and more clear picture. I feel like we know more than we did at the end of last episode, which is like she just shot something she's not supposed to shoot. All hell's going to break loose. Now we're seeing the results from some of that. And to that point, it didn't seem like Dustin even really knew how it was going to work. Even having a better idea of what it was than certainly we did, he still didn't totally understand. Max and Holly are running from Henry / Vecna, who's regained most of the control of his legs. We get this confrontation at the cave. You're talking pretty positively on this episode, but I wanted to say, and there has been some mixed reactions just on the first 2 episodes, and I do think 6 has been more well received than 5. But I guess my point is this: the fact that they decided to lynch this season so heavily on season 2, which is the worst season and certainly has the worst episode by anybody's standards. And they've chosen to lynch this season off of that and a play that 90% of the audience or more hasn't not only seen, but doesn't have access to, because this cave is really knee deep in the play. And I read some out of that after the first half of the first season because I figured I was going to get various things spoiled for me anyway. And I don't even totally understand what's going on, but it takes some balls to base a show off, base a closing season off some of the key plot points in your worst season, certainly your worst episode, and then a show that most of the audience hasn't seen. Is that fair criticism, Dan?
I'll split the difference with you. I think everything about the Broadway play is pretty spot on. And I don't think you necessarily need to have seen it to appreciate it, but for people like us that are into the lore, that want to understand and have a deeper understanding, I do say it feels um like a lot's being gate kept from people like us that want to know that. Like I would
Well,
read the book if there were a book out
yeah,
there.
but I mean, didn't they start it in like England and it just barely got on Broadway? And it's not like they did a US tour first and it's
Right.
like drive to a city if you want to see it, if you care that much, or but it's like, no, either go to England or within a couple month window, go to Broadway, or I guess.
So I'm
So,
with you on that.
yeah.
Now, as far as the lynching it to season 2, like I know they said there's some episodes that if you want a refresher,
Well, it's
go
very much.
back and a couple of them were 2, a couple of them were 4. I'm not feeling like this is an exact model of season 2 or that it pulls more from season 2 than any other season. So that's
Well,
where I would
well,
I'm not buying that argument.
specifically here and specifically to that season, it's the Will the Spy season, and then the 8 stuff, and those are probably 2 of the larger lynch points of this season. We're getting a lot of Will the Spy, and then obviously these last 2 episodes are very 8 heavy. So that's I guess what I'm referring to. I think it's just like you didn't like it, too bad, you're gonna get more of it.
We're going to
And
shove the goo down your throat.
it's a bold move in the last season of a television show that only has so much runway. I think one of the criticisms were they were trying to create like spin-off series, like they were trying to widen it instead of tighten it, and we're in an area where it's already too wide, and then you're bringing back things that keep this half of the season wide. And there's areas where that works, like I think Mr. Clark works, but would you rather see 8 or Erica? I guess is a question I have. Or would you say rather see Murray or Erica? And I guess you get both of them in spots. But when you're making these choices in the final season of a show, for me, I think I do have some issues here.
I think those have been my issues the first 4 episodes.
Yeah.
And part of the
Well,
fifth, I don't know that I felt that
Yeah,
issue relative
I,
to
I
this
I
episode?
guess to me it's more cumulative as I'm giving it the
The
runway.
deeper
So
you get into it,
for me, the runway's collapsing and with the exotic math on itself at
and the
this point.
bridge is
Yeah.
collapsing too.
Yeah, I think for me, like I've been giving it the runway, waiting for it to take off. And to your point, it does take off more here, but does it make up for 5 episodes of this? I don't know. For me, I don't know that it does.
That what you're stating sounds a lot how I felt about
Yeah,
episode 5.
yeah, I'm just rounding backwards to you because I'm getting further out there. And I think I was
Okay.
taking some of the criticism that you gave it last episode, and we came in fresh without seeing a lot of other criticism. And so as we began talking through it, I started to nitpick it a little bit more. And then the more I got into it, the more I was like, I still like it. I'm still happy. The episodes are ending well, right? You want to see the next episode, regardless
Yeah.
of what's in the middle. So they're landing that plane, right? I will say that. Henry is going back to she's a liar. Holly calls him a disgusting monster. I don't know what they're doing with Henry, but I think I would just like it to be a little cleaner as far as him being a villain. I just feel like they're fleabagging us, or what did you call the episode? Flea on a tightroping us.
Lee and
Like
the acrobating us.
yeah, I'm just really confused by Henry's presentation sometimes. Like he's limping, he was just Vecna, and then he's trying to pretend like but like this is all a fabricated lie. I guess it's just a lot of gaslighting. What are you making of the Henry stuff here?
I don't know that I'm trying to pin him down the way you are. I mean, Max pretty much calls on him, um, which
I guess I'm just prepared for the Henry was a good person this whole time and the mind flayer, but
and
and I,
there was something else in this episode. You mentioned something to that effect during our coverage of 5, and there was something that popped up in 6 that made me look at like, oh, Henry and Vecna are two separate people, and he was this innocent boy before
I'm gonna
the
be
Boy
pissed.
Scout leader got to him or whatever. And
Yeah, so I'm just saying that's where it's coming from for me. And my critical eye of this is if it's Henry is an innocent bystander and all this, I'm pretty irritated because he's creepy as regardless of anything. We find out that he's got other ways to get to Max and that her life is in your hands, which we're later going to find his access to Will the spy is going to compromise Max's real world position. I did kind of have questions if there was something else because of the collapsing of the portal, if it was giving him a different kind of access. How did you read that initially? Did you think of anything else, or were you headed towards Will the spy the whole time?
no, I wasn't. I thought he was gonna have some pressure points. I didn't know that it was necessarily tied to Will, um, because I couldn't see whose mind who was in at that point.
I just thought maybe that what happened might be more of a game changer than it is. I mean, I think it's a more of a game changer in our understanding of the universe, but in the actual physics of this episode, we got a near death thing, but it didn't change the game this episode. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, there was a lot of physics and science that I had to just put on hold
Yeah.
while watching this, and it might not hold up to a rewatch. I don't know.
Speaking of, the Squawk is powered by 50,000 gigawatts or just watts. We're on November 6th, timeline wise. So this is D-Day, if you will. I'm not going to go through that whole thing again, but
Listen to our last episode coverage.
well, we're here for it. Lucas is trying to make sense of everything, and he says all of this makes no sense. Eventually, Robin pieces together that Max and Will and Holly are all in trances wherever they are. We've got a Clash album representing Will that Dan has the actual vinyl of,
I don't have the Tiffany one.
or the
Sorry.
Kate Bush.
Your mom borrowed
Well,
that one.
Jessica Z will have to be our Kate Bush representative. To your point of us trying to figure out what's going on, they're in Vecna's mind, maybe, but then their physical bodies are where? Question mark. I guess we know where Will's is, we know where Max's is, and then Holly's is in the goo chamber.
Yeah, there's a lot of them like existing in three different planes at once, it feels like. So, Spatial Lord, Geography Lord was a little bit floundering here, but I'm just accepting the premise. And Robin with the crate did good enough for me.
She's talking about how they're planning a prison escape, and then they would know more about Vecna's lair. Lucas calls that an end game, and we get Robin saying this could all possibly be linchpinned on your comatose girlfriend and your baby sister. So Robin and Lucas are headed to the hospital. Mike's gonna stay with Will. Will wakes up in Vecna's grasp. We get more vessel talk. He calls him my spy. I have danced around the Brand the Builder dog and pony show with Will, and he does call him my builder, but apparently somehow he's been making him build the tunnels. Is he using his mind to power the demi dogs to dig the holes? What are you taking that as?
Through so much of this episode, this is not why I gave it such a high rating. There is a lot of homosexual allegory, is there not?
I wasn't going that fair. My problem is sticking the fleshy stick in his mouth. And I will say, when he did say, yeah, I mean, specifically when he said, the more you resist this, the more will hurt, was maybe not a high point.
That's one way to dig a tunnel.
um, yeah, I guess I wasn't thinking about
And then
that,
we
but
cut to Steve and Nancy being swallowed by goo.
no, I mean the goo. Well, and I think we get Steve and Dustin saying something like "we're coming," and then they're all gooping through the goop.
I mean, there was just a whole lot of vibe that I took, and maybe that says more about me. I don't know. I didn't
Yeah, well,
walk into this episode with an agenda.
I did see some people when the initial thing leaked of this open with Vecna's meaty meat tube going into Will. And some people were accusing other people of being inappropriate and saying there's something wrong with you if you see this. And I'm like, I think this is just, they're giving it to us. We don't want
They're
it. I
giving
mean,
it to Will at
I'm
least.
I'm getting buyers myself having to watch this against my will. I did also make a note. You've got like Vecna's pulsating fleshlight above his body, like there's some sort of vascular hood above him, and the 12 vessels. I don't know. We get the Holly and Max talk about why can't Henry come into the caves, and they have a theory, and the theory really does. I mean, I think since we get enough of this here, we can just say we know something happened to him in the caves in the play, and we see what we think happened to him in the caves here. Results may vary on what that is and what we saw, but I think it's an interesting exchange between Holly and Max again this episode. I really do think they tie this together well. Did their part of this hold up as well, the second episode, for you as it did the previous one?
Well, it did, and like we said during the first installment, that the actress that plays Holly is a strength, and with two other actors just being out here on their own for the side quest, it could have been like one of those Fallout side quests that like, oh geez, it's Maximus and Dane, I gotta watch this again.
Oh, yeah.
Um, but due to the strength of them and the way that they're like kind of challenging each other, but still accepting certain premises. They're not being petulant like Steve and Dustin are. They're not. They're just trying to find the right solution, even though it's a difficult process. So that was a good dynamic for me.
Yeah, and she says she likes her theory, but like at first, almost Max doesn't even want to talk, and she kind of pushes her to keep talking. And then when she gives her theory, she's like, I like it. And we get a little callback to that later. We do get a quote from Holly as they're talking through what was going on with Henry. And she goes, he can't steal his own mind, can he? And that's one of my beeping red flags
Yeah, I think
of the episode.
that was probably the drop. Well, and also just look at the fact that like to get out, Max and Holly both had like their own history of like doors to go through and windows to climb through. And so basically we're doing that right now with Henry, or that's
Yeah,
the
yeah,
quest they go on.
yeah.
So we're all victims together. We're all the same. Like that seems to be what they're proposing to us.
Yeah, and we are getting a lot of justice for the smoke monster. Like, I think, don't they talk about him escaping when they killed that Demigorgon again? Doesn't Mike bring that up somewhere? Or like,
Yeah, I wasn't sure what the point to that was exactly, but
yeah,
like,
but
yeah,
I'm,
it just flew off like bats.
yeah. Um, I did think the like you are your brother line was pretty good, and I didn't really have an understanding that they could just walk off the back of that mountain thing. It seemed more
I
cliffy than it was.
there's a couple times in this episode where it's like the landscape looks far away and way like 2,000 feet down, and it's
Yeah,
like, oh
yeah.
no, there's a staircase there.
Yeah, no, agreed there. Now, where does the funeral home ride come from? Did Hopper have that from the coroner episode a long time ago? Or why are they in a hearse, I guess?
Yeah, that was weird to me because I'd forgotten that as they're in the upside down trudging towards, the rift hole, we never actually see them all emerge back into Hawkins. Like they were just working towards it. So in my head I had to do a little like, oh crap. So they got out and they're reunited with everybody.
I
And
mean, maybe where they came out of was near the church, question mark, and the church had a hearse, question mark.
well, I mean, yeah, it was the church in the upside down. So I didn't get too tied into logistics. I was actually like, oh, we got a little mini reunion here. That's good.
And still eights around there just lurking like
Yeah,
a
that was
weirdo.
mopiness part of it.
I did think it was a weird line, the where's the rest of our greeting party from Hopper. And I do feel like Hopper has multiple personalities in this show. There's this Hopper and the other Hopper. And I definitely like this Hopper more than the other, but it's jarring alternating between Mopey Hopper and like happy go lucky, aw shucks
Yeah, he's
Hopper.
either dancing to Jim Croce or he's gonna blow himself up.
Or the librarian is. We get from Steve and Dustin. This is either the afterlife or Nancy didn't totally collapse the wormhole. Jonathan and Nancy wake up in the excruciating amounts of goo. I was a little surprised because Elle was plugging into the antenna. And I thought that that would be a real big reach for her, but it turned out to not be as effective, or they want to get her back to the tub. So I was kind of surprised that that didn't work. My note is Callie watching like a weirdo. We get Hopper and Mike talking about the flesh wall. I think Hopper kind of does a U here where he's getting patched up and Mike's asking about all this weird stuff. And he's like, I don't totally understand. Like, I feel like I'm missing a piece, but it all connects. So maybe that's our not explaining explainer. But he does say it is funny. We get a Pollyanna line here. Here comes Pollyanna to brighten everyone's day. And I do think that eight is just such a Debbie Downer. She says she's just there to help and is basically saying that killing Henry won't end this and that he lies to Jane and lies to himself. She's here to make sure this never happens again. That seems pretty ominous. Any other takes there?
Yeah, I was starting to wonder, like, does Eight feel it she needs to take it on herself to kill L to end this whole train? That's what she's given out, at least right
Well,
here.
I kind of was reading from last time and now into this one. She takes it a step further, but it feels like she's trying to talk Elle into basically offing herself. But then this line kind of makes you wonder if she doesn't talk her into killing herself, is she gonna, take matters into her own hands?
Maybe she's the new villain for the spinoff.
We will see. We've got Vicky. Robin's at the hospital. Lucas. Vicky confronts Robin on the benzos. I do think this is a good Vicky episode, but to the, once again, the expanse of all these characters, there's just a lot of board to cover. We did get in the first episode, they're like chasing down crackheads basically because they're trying to find Elle. It's an excuse. So we do see the military try to like escort Robin on this premise of her being a drug addict. So first part of this is, what did you make of the Vicky Robin confession, thoughts that she's a drug addict? But two, is this a mini callback to that first scene where we saw where they were capturing junkies and they're like, this isn't the first junkie we've run across? We've never really got an explainer for that first part, the burnouts or whatever, the first episode. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, I didn't swim too long in that space. Um, I mean, obviously they've made it look like Robin's wanted for one reason or the other, but I don't think they're really after Robin for being a junkie. I don't think that's why the military is after her. That might be their cover
No,
story.
but I'm wondering if that's just their broader cover story for everything, because I think it was their cover story for like tackling the girl that was running from Elle. Well, I think with they thought it was Elle, they're like, oh, it's just another burnout. So I do think it's like a widespread problem, maybe that they haven't a plot line that they came up with that we didn't explore.
Yeah, and they never developed.
But I digress.
The Vicky and Robin of it all, I thought a little bit of the tension scene went long, when they're like locked in the room and
Well,
we
they give
know.
them they give them like two scenes when it could have been one scene.
Yeah, but
A
I did
lot
think
of
that
this.
that paid off when Robin's vindicated later.
No, but I'm saying if they had delivered it all at the same time, I think we're getting a lot of jumping, which is common to a lot of our shows lately. I guess that's just TV now, but it's I don't need to jump back and forth to them within 5 minutes. Like we could just clear the 2 minutes now
Yeah.
and probably in 30 less seconds. That's what she said. I did think the Holly and Uncle Eric explanation was kind of funny. He was the metal detectorist and he quit looking for it, and then some tourists found $1 million of treasure, and Max is the Uncle Eric and she's the tourist. I just thought that was a funny side story that paid off better for me the most. What about you?
I think I completely missed that.
It's basically they're searching through the desert and Max wants to quit. And Holly is like, did Mike ever tell you about Uncle Eric? And so I'm like, where is this going? Is this more weird Uncle Henry stuff? And apparently their uncle was this metal detectorist and he would go out every weekend to the beach in Indiana. And one weekend he stayed home and this tourist found the $1 million. So that was the Holly simile, analogy, metaphor that they should keep looking and not give up. And then
Gotcha.
around there is where we get the M marks the spot with the cap.
On the
And this
spyglass, yeah.
does kind of pay off because she's had a lot of business with the cap the first few episodes of the season, or whenever she got to Camazotz, like she was tinkering it within in his little bureau or curio or storage case. And then later she calls herself stupid for not having the cap off. So it's interesting that she's backed her way into the cap being relevant. I don't think they beat you over the head with it. One more and it would have been too much, but I thought it
Yeah.
was interesting the way it developed. Any thoughts with you on the cap and the
No,
telescope?
I agree that it paid off and I think they set it up well.
Yeah, so I do. My note here is we're coming, and then Goo and Steve and Dustin, more Goo, Nancy and Jonathan, clear goo. There's goo coming through the walls. There's goo coming out of everywhere.
I got Vecna shot goo all over Jonathan's face.
Yeah. Well,
He got
I did.
Hueyed.
I did get my hopes up that she was gonna like Rose and Titanic Jonathan and just leave him in the goo. Like there wasn't gonna be enough room on the table for Jonathan, is kind of what I was hoping for. We end up at the old, like, what is it, Hopper's grandpa's cabin where they used
Yeah,
to
we're
live.
we're back at the cabin where the tub is. Got to use the
Okay.
tub again.
We get some stuff with Ellen Hopper about. I thought this was more effective than the stuff earlier in the season where Joy says she's worried she's been holding Will back this whole time. So instead of her being like, I should have never let him do this again, she's like, I've been holding him back so long that when he did this, I like stunted his progress. And I thought that was better character development on her part than just going back to the helicopter mom well. And then I think she's the one that says, every choice I make is wrong. And Hopper says, kids are a constant reminder your whole life that every choice you've made is wrong. You've got some pretty good daughters, Dan, so I would imagine you don't feel that way, but
No, not at all, but I could put my ex-wife in that role.
hi-yo. I was going to say, are there at least things you can relate to? Is it just being tough being a parent or something like that?
I've been pretty blessed, I gotta say. I can see, other people that I know where this might be more apropos. So I didn't necessarily take Joyce's response the same as you did, and yours makes sense. It's just I'm so used to her being mopey and down, and oh no, you didn't. And this one time I let him, and now it's my fault was I think I probably like Jessica Zed through half of her speech, just seeing mopey Joyce sitting there. So I appreciate your take on it.
Yeah, and to be fair, I did make a watch pass and a notes pass, so that helps. What did you make? I thought it was nice to get some physical reference to the fact that Mike and Eleven aren't they still together? We went from season 3 where they couldn't keep their tongue out of each other's mouths to where I feel like we're getting side friend hugs, and it's like there's a happy medium. So just having Mike make a comment that Santa Claus has good taste over her bodysuit or just something. I mean, are they still together? Question mark. Breakups better than me, apparently.
Yeah, I think they are. I mean, it's not like Elle's gonna get with anybody else, but she did dump your, but then they got back together. So yeah, I think like the awkwardness is still there, but like you've pointed out, like we're still getting a better version of Mike, I think. So
Yeah, I mean, they've rebounded him as well as anybody this season, I think. So he says to her, friends don't lie, you're avoiding. She says, you can't help, not with this. So she mentions that the lab and the upside down and restarting Papa's program, that they're trying to make new numbers. We do get this like recognition that Henry's blood is in her and they can make more monsters, more Henry. So I thought it was a good character revelation that she's like, I know I'm not the monster, but they want to make more monsters kind of thing. It seems like whenever this is going on, Eight's with like one of those like cups behind the door, listening in or in one of
staring at
their
their feet.
brains or something's going on. She says this isn't like one of your campaigns. You don't get to write the ending, not this time. And he says, but we do. It's our story. I did think it was interesting when he mentions all the characters. He does not mention Max. He just kind of
Oh,
mentions the core for him and Elle, but not Max. But him and Max have had some off and on beef. So Mike and
and
Max.
she's kind of off on the sidebar as far as everything he's been doing.
Yeah, I get it. I thought it was an interesting omission there. I don't think it's like a plot revealing omission, but it was just pointing it out. He says our story starts with getting Will back. I don't know which point I think we don't get the full reveal here, but we get the Will the spy, Vecna searching his mind for Max stuff. I think I was already there at this point, but then I think maybe it's later that they show the actual room number of Will. I'm not sure exactly the order of when that's if we get. I feel like we
No,
almost
that's
get
about here
to
because Elle wakes up and she sends them off to rescue to the hospital right away.
Holly falls in the hole, the Holly hole that gets us to the to the
Cheese
head.
and crackers.
I don't know what you the Henry
They call them
hole.
mine shafts, abandoned mine shafts, Craig. Not
Okay.
holly holes.
Uh, well, I did think, well, my note was she said something like, Max is saying to her, there's a tiny hole in your theory. And then she falls through the hole, like, and my note is
And
Holly
Shia
Hole.
LaBeouf pops out.
I'm tired of this, Grandpa. Steve's gonna do the ladder thing with Dustin, and then Dustin kind of freaks out and cries and is like, "You can't die, I can't deal with this again." And we get this emotional scene. I think it was about time they turned the corner here.
Yeah.
I feel like there could have been a more natural progression from A to B, whereas I felt it just took a sharp turn here, but it's a sharp turn I was glad to take, certainly. What was your take on this scene?
Well, I think my frustration with the whole Dustin character, the whole season, like I could put a bookend on it here, which I needed to.
Yeah, and
And
so that part I felt as I'm watching it, that's a good turning point for Dan. Like,
yeah.
but also for me. I mean, I feel mostly the same way about it. So
I mean, he mentions Eddie, you see where his trauma is. Okay, they get a little hug. And then the ladder falls down to kind of justify Dustin's point.
yeah, and now they've both been wrong, and so they can, quit measuring again, and we can get on with it. So
Quit measuring wormholes.
the goo room is filling up. We get this honesty session. Nancy hates the class, Dan. Do you have anything you want to say about that?
I was never as big a Nancy fan as you seem to be, so like I'm I'm
I
done
am
with her.
still a Nancy fan in real life, but let's just talk the show version of Nancy. I feel like she's aged 10 years this season. Like they've got her, that wig's not doing her any favors.
That
Like
that puts her well out of your range.
for sure. The lighting's not doing her any favors. Like it's not a great, I still am a big Nancy fan, but it's a little rough out there. He hates reading her articles. They talk about themselves being safe but suffocating. I think we can all relate to relationships that aren't working, that maybe even you'd like to work, but they're just not. In my experience, that's usually one side lying about it to themselves more than the other, but it seems like this is pretty mutual. Your thoughts?
Yeah, well, and I think as viewers we've kind of seen this like tension for some time now, and they give all the different reference points. Um, and where the show was pretty innovative early on, it seemed like some storylines they got stuck in. So the fact that we're maybe getting unstuck from the goo, um, like this was like I wanted it to progress, and they kind of swerved back and forth. But as we discussed earlier, I think I had the true read on it. But I don't mind that they kind of like with you a little bit there.
You like getting with more than I do, but what I'll say is I
You're
didn't
more into
mind
mice.
I didn't mind it here, but we spent a long time on this. Like in the middle of we're one away from the penultimate episode and Frog goes to Goo Town. Could they have cut half of the Goo segments and just got to the dialogue? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I just think there are some
Well, and this was
editing patient.
a long scene. And during this whole like heart to heart, like I didn't blink. I was like I really wanted.
I don't hate it. I actually like it. I think it's just in the broad scheme of this season and what we've gotten. It's just it to me it just feels weird. We get
Greg, if
another.
there's gonna be this much goo, there's gotta be a lot of foreplay.
I'm saying there could have been less goo and left the same foreplay, but maybe less goo is all I'm saying.
Note
Um,
for the ladies.
Nobody's more of a fan of goo than me, but come on.
Whoa, wait a minute.
Everybody
Let's
likes
clip
their
that
own
one.
brand, Dan. What have you read about the play? Do you know what happens
Just
down there?
all I really know is that it's like Henry's backstory. It's set in Hawkins back in the 60s or sometime.
What the hell's happening here, I guess,
I
is
think there might still be another leg to this story.
well, there definitely is on the case, right? Because we see him open and it's like, does the
The end
smoke
of Pulp
does
Fiction.
the
Yeah.
smoke monster just come out and crawl down his throat and this is what we're getting? Because if it is, I'm gonna be a little I'm just telling you, I'm alerting everybody now. If he opens that case and the smoke monster comes down him and Holly talks the smoke monster out of Henry, and we're supposed to pretend that this is a normal human being, this diddler, by the time this is all done, I'm gonna be pissed. So I'm just preparing everyone for the storm that's coming.
I think It might not be exactly as you wrote it there. I think there will be parts of it though that are definitely in the end recipe.
I want everybody to keep in mind though that I understand the scientist like took a gunshot at him and that he Jesus one of his hands, but then he beat him to death with a rock before whatever happens next to him. So I just want to point that out before we get justice for Henry coming our way. And we get from Holly, like, is that this what makes Henry bad? I do think at minimum, this is how Holly's going to eventually get through to him, right? I mean, there's got to be more of
That's their
this.
deep connection and her understanding of the true him. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're getting some of it. I didn't think Max was going to get through those rocks. I thought at a point Max was going to get Holly out of there and leave herself there. I thought that might be where this is going. But Max was getting herself out and going to leave Holly, which is kind of funny.
Like you gotta go figure it out, kid.
Yeah, I really thought Max wasn't going to be able to get through there, and she was just going to throw her through and be like, you got through at least kind of thing. But eventually they reversed Rochambeau'd me there. Any other thoughts on the Henry scout hole or anything else here?
I am curious about the story. So they gave me just enough here.
What we do get, this is where coming out of this is the like found you quote from Vecna, and then everybody's like rushing. I'm not really sure I guess they already knew the hoss. No, I don't know the order of that. That is weird. But he knows where she is now, and they send him after, so everybody's splitting their ways. Vicky thinks that she's in withdrawals. I thought that was funny. We get the demi dogs. I did think, good for Vicky to just point out on the intercom, head to the basement, that kind of thing, instead of messing with calling the room. Do you think they telegraphed Karen Wheeler too much, just enough? How did that play out for you?
Yeah, I think they did telegraph all of it a lot. Like she even looks at the oxygen tanks, like
Yeah.
the camera rests on them. Um, and as they get into a corner, like sometimes you watch the show and you're like, how are they going to get out of this? And it's like, oh, Will's doing mind flayer stuff now. So, oh, okay, I kind of forgot about that.